Welcome. For those joining us who aren't familiar with who my HR partner is and what we do, I just want to give a very brief overview of who we are. We are a full service HR outsourcing firm that has been in business, the business of HR for over 20 years, serving clients in over 40 states in a variety of industries. When organizations partner with us, we integrate seamlessly into the organization and we take pride in our ability to stay proactive, responsive, and available. Our ultimate goal is to drive business through your people. And hopefully, our hope is that this webinar will give you some ideas on how to do that. And before we really dive in, I just want you to meet your panelists today, myself, Emily, and Jen. I'm Stephanie, obviously. I've been in HR for over 20 years. I've worked in a variety of industries in the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. I've been with my HR partner serving our amazing clients for a little over 3 years. I'm excited to be here with you and the panelists. I am truly passionate about elevating business through people because when your people feel valued, it truly drives everything else forward. So with that said, I'm going to pass the baton to Emily to just tell a little bit about herself.
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Emily Cooper. It's really great to be here. I've been working in HR and recruiting for over 7 years now across a wide range of industries. And I've been a part of the myHR partner team since 2022. While it's super important for current employees to feel valued, being that I focus mostly on recruitment now, I'm also really excited to bring a unique perspective to employee recognition as it relates to the hiring process, too. You can really start planting the seed and promoting recognition programs to get candidates even more excited to work for you and to stand out from other potential employers that they may be speaking with. So I'll provide some examples of how to do that throughout the webinar today.
All right, great, Emily. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Shoemaker. Like Stephanie, I've been in HR for over 20 years. And this month actually marks my fourth anniversary with my HR partner. And during this time, I've had the opportunity to support a really diverse range of clients across industries, including banking, marketing, sales, manufacturing, professional services, just to name a few. I would like to really, welcome everyone. Thank you for all that have joined us today. I am super excited to be here with you to talk through this really, truly important topic of employee recognition programs.
Awesome. And thank you both for being here today. So today we're going to explore how a thoughtful recognition program can motivate your employees, improve company culture, and ultimately drive organizational success. We'll discuss why recognition matters, give you some information on designing a program or refreshing one that maybe you already have. And I think the best part is we're going to share some real world examples of programs and how those were set up and rolled out. At the end, we will be providing you with a go-to guide to creating an employee recognition program. It's going to be a great supplement to what you hear today. So stick around for the end. And I just want to a special thank you to those of you who sent questions in ahead of time. We're going to try to get to those throughout the session. We've kind of peppered them in. But at the end of the session, I'll be providing you my email address. So feel free to reach out to me directly. If there's something that we did not get to or something that you think of afterwards, I'm happy to answer your questions if we don't get to that. So as I promised, first poll question. Do you currently have an employee recognition program? We're going to start easy, simple, yes or no. Just take a few seconds. Even if you have a small one, even if it's not something grand or, huge, even if it's just something small, or you're recognizing employees in some way. Okay. Give it another second. All right. And do we have the results? Okay, excellent. 65% currently have some type of a program. That's fantastic. Really, really good. So what you're going to learn today also is not just building a new program, but refreshing maybe one, getting some fresh ideas for, potentially and updating or refreshing a program that you already have. Fantastic. Oh, I love that. All right. So I feel like it's important to go back to basics and ask ourselves what employee recognition is. I think it helps us start to think about the different opportunities and possibilities that we might have for a program within our organizations. Employee recognition really serves to reinforce positive behaviors, core values, boosts morale, and ultimately strengthens an organization's culture. Recognition can come from various sources, right? Peers, managers, company leaders, and even customers. I think sometimes we forget that customer recognition is super important as well. So why is it so important? Studies consistently show that recognition boosts employee morale and motivation. It also improves retention, helping you keep that top talent, and attracting new talent, which Emily's actually going to get into quite a bit as we go through the session. Ultimately, recognizing employees can drive better business outcomes by aligning individual performance with organizational goals to really push the company forward. So I'd like to hear from Emily and Jen to just share some examples of how, in your experience, employee recognition has had a positive impact and either with yourself as an employee or with organizations that you've worked with. Emily, do you want to kick it off for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've seen employee recognition programs create a real sense of pride and camaraderie in the workplace. In a prior role, we had a Microsoft Teams channel for shout outs where each time an employee did one, they'd get a point, which could eventually add up to buy company swag with. We were a pretty casual organization, so that was really enticing to our crew to not have to pay for that swag. So everyone wanted to save up their points for that shirt or sweatshirt that they could wear to work. They could also post on their own social media and tag the company to get extra points, which also helped with recruitment and marketing efforts since they were sharing with their own networks that we weren't already connected with. So we had about 10 locations at that time. So there was a lot of activity in that channel daily from both employees and leadership. So it both motivated employees and created a fun and rewarding aspect to shouting out their coworkers. And as I've mentioned at this point in my career, I typically handle the recruitment process. So having fun recognition programs should be introduced early on in the interviewing process and during initial onboarding. Everyone spends most of their week at work, so they want to enjoy the environment and culture that they're in. A Glassdoor survey even found that 77% of respondents consider a company's culture before applying to a job. And 56% said company culture is more important than salary as it relates to job satisfaction, which is huge.
That's huge. I love, Emily, that you brought up, you know, promoting the employee recognition program during the hiring process. Can you give us just some more information and some maybe some examples of how you've seen that incorporated into the hiring process? Maybe some tips that folks can, integrate into their process?
Yeah, great question. So, there are definitely a couple of ways that you can highlight employee recognition practices that your company does during the interviewing process. So, first and foremost, you can talk about it in the interview, share stories, have the team speak to it, either provide testimonials or pamphlets or something that has that highlighted, or if you have panel interviews or multiple rounds of interviews, make sure each interviewer speaks to your employee recognition program, how it's made them feel, maybe examples. Everybody resonates with those real life examples. You can also highlight recognition programs in your job ad or description. That's what makes people want to apply for your job in the first place. So if you do something fun that makes you stand out, make sure you put it in the ad because that's the first impression that they're getting. You can also show it on your careers page or during onboarding. If you have an orientation presentation, put it in there, mention it. So it's the first thing that they are kind of getting out of that first day with the company. It's a first impression again, and it leaves a lasting impact on them. And then also include it in your offer packet, in your offer letter or benefits package. Frame it as part of, a benefit to working there. We value our employees because we do X, Y, Z. Just because it's not a monetary, benefit, you can still put it in there as something to highlight. And even if you don't have an extravagant recognition program, even just a platform to shout out employees that you use regularly makes you stand out over other employers. So mention it. Research found that 28% of people said that the most memorable recognition comes most often from their employee's manager, followed by a high level leader or CEO at 24%. So if you have a program that especially allows for that top down recognition, mention it because that is huge.
I love it. Highlight it. Don't put it out there. I love because it shows that it's part of the organization's culture. It's a benefit. I love the idea of testimonials. And I actually really like the idea of having it in as part of the benefits, you know, program. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Emily. Jen?
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. What I found, recognition is truly one of the most powerful drivers of employee satisfaction and retention because it taps into a human fundamental human need, which is that need to feel seen, valued, appreciated. So whether you're acknowledging just day-to-day efforts or really celebrating standout achievement, when it's done well, it really does help the employee feel that deeper sense of purpose and belonging to their work. That emotional connection will fuel the morale and engagement, which of course will naturally lead to higher job satisfaction. And in a previous role, and similar to what Emily had mentioned, we had rolled out a recognition program where employees could earn points for achievement in areas like safety performance, quality improvements, productivity gains, and consistent attendance, among other things. While those points could be redeemed also for rewards, the real impact often came from the public recognition itself. So when someone was acknowledged, you'd see high fives and cheers and genuine smiles. And these smiles were not only on the face of the recipient, but it was from their entire team. So this kind of recognition created that ripple effect of positivity throughout the workplace. And really, best of all, public recognition doesn't cost the organization a thing. It is truly a win-win scenario for you.
I love it. I love that you mentioned the peers celebrating the recognition, the high fives, the, that personal, it promotes teamwork, right? And camaraderie, which is a beautiful thing, no matter why it's happening. So that's awesome. All right, poll question number 2, as promised. This one's a little more difficult, just kidding. What type of employee recognition program does your company currently have? The options here, we have performance-based, core value, milestone recognition. Maybe you have all of them. Maybe you have something different, or maybe you don't have one. Now, if you have more than one of these, which one do you find is most impactful? Is it maybe you have a performance-based one, maybe you have a core value one and a milestone recognition program. Which one do you find most impactful to your organization and your workforce? I'll give it another couple seconds. All right. Results. Okay. All of the above. Wow, 47%. That's fantastic. Okay, very good. It seems pretty split between performance-based and core value. I'm actually surprised to see milestone recognition a little bit lower than performance and core value. I actually, I don't know about Emily and Jen, that actually surprised me a little. I thought that one was going to be the winner.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very good. Okay. All right. So moving on to our key award types, and then rewards to motivate employees. Key award types to consider, we have our merit-based awards, recognizing performance achievements, value-based awards, celebrating employees who embody your company's core values. There's calendar-driven awards. Those are honoring your milestones like birthdays, anniversaries, promotions. The calendar-driven milestone awards, I just want to say for a moment, those are, I find personally, the low-hanging fruit. of recognition. They're relatively easy to implement. If you need to start small, which I always recommend starting small and then kind of growing from there. They can be free or low cost in the rewards portion, using like recognition and things of that nature. So, it's important to see, what's going to work best for your organization. Jen, I think you have some good examples of different organizations and kind of what works
Yeah.
best in different situations.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. So, like Stephanie had mentioned, I have found that all three types are valuable and impactful in their own way. That effectiveness really does depend on the kind of program that you are aiming to build. So, starting with the merit-based awards, these are highly effective at driving performance and rewarding specific accomplishments, such as reaching a significant milestone or exceeding targets. Organizations that are focused on sales or performance based are often benefit the most from this type of an approach. Values-based awards are key for shaping and reinforcing an organization's culture. So this approach does work especially well for organizations that have that strong cultural values or those that are in the service-oriented industries. And then going to the calendar-based awards, where you provide that regular opportunities for recognition. This helps to ensure, again, that momentum is continued. So organizations that have larger workforces, maybe a little bit of higher turnover, or have that more traditional structure, often find that this approach works the best. But ultimately, I want to say that it doesn't matter what type, and no type is better than the other. The most effective approach often involves a combination of these type of awards, which would then be customized to align with your company's goals and values.
Love it. It's so true. It's always kind of keep that in the back of your mind when you're thinking about what, refreshing or editing a program that you already have or building a new one. You really want to build a program that is custom to your company. The programs that we talk about today, they aren't one size fits all. So you might think, I might think, oh, this is great. It might not work for my organization. It might not be effective, for the employee base. So just, taking, culture and goal considerations uh, into account are super important when deciding what's going to be the best fit for you, your organization, and your people. So let's talk about rewards, not to be confused with awards, which can be a tongue twister sometimes. Rewards are what the employee gets. Awards are what you're measuring. Okay. So some popular options include verbal or written praise, on-site or off-site events, virtual events if you're remote. We're going to get into that a bit here in a little bit. Additional paid time off. And even this is a great one. We do this at myHR Partner as well. Donations to charities of the employee's choice or made in on behalf of the employee's name. At the end of the day,
Stephanie, a freeze for you all.
Mhm.
Yes.
um,
Oh, she's
that,
back. Steph, you froze for just about 10, 15 seconds. If you wouldn't mind repeating what you had
oh, I'm
there.
so sorry.
Not your fault.
It's raining. That could be it. Sorry about that. So talking about rewards, ultimately, you want to tailor your rewards to your company culture and budget, but you want to make sure that you're ensuring that, whatever you're deciding on feels valuable to the employees and they feel that impact. So those are just a few. Emily's going to go into a deeper dive on the rewards and what you can kind of slice and dice there.
Yeah, absolutely. So some examples, like I've mentioned, and to expand on Stephanie's list, a platform like Teams or Slack for just verbal praise, to be able to shout out employees goes a long way. Weekly or monthly, all team member calls. This allows for team connection as well. So if you have a an agenda that you follow that's pretty strict on those meetings, this can provide some variety as well to break up the monotony. It can be unexpected shout outs. Maybe you'll have your leadership team have a couple of shout outs that is ready to go, and then open it up to your team if they want to shout out any of their coworkers. So it's just adding on to maybe a meeting that you already have. Um, you can also do like personalized emails from either leadership or the employee's direct manager, as well as thank you cards. There's also options to do things like peer nominated employee of the month or employee of the quarter. There's a lot of different options that you can do.
Absolutely. So, Emily, we had some questions sent in for quite a few actually, from participants regarding virtual remote workforces and how, best some options for remote and free or inexpensive options, because obviously we know we're going to get into some challenges in a bit, but budget often can be challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of the options that I had mentioned are relatively free already, besides maybe some like admin legwork that you may need to keep that program running. But specifically here at myHR Partner, we do have a lot of, we are all remote. We have employees across the nation. So with that, we do a lot of virtual events. So just from our perspective, we've done some free to low cost options like a virtual escape room, music bingo, Jeopardy, where we just get a 1 hour of paid time to connect with our coworkers, and not focus so much on work specifically, but have a little bit of fun. And those have either been free or very low cost. We'll have either like a company come in and facilitate it, or something like bingo. There are a lot of free options on the internet if you have somebody in-house that's tech savvy and wants to take on that project. It's relatively easy. And then also this Employee Appreciation Day, we actually did a terrarium making class, which was super fun and very low cost. It was only about $50 per person. They sent us all of the supplies to our houses. And then there was a host that got on Zoom with us. And again, we were able to have an hour of paid time just making a terrarium together. So that was really fun as well. The only thing I will say about virtual events is make sure if you do have in-person employees and virtual employees, that whatever you're doing for your in-person employees or your virtual employees, that it's inclusive of all of them. So you want to make sure that nobody is feeling left out, like the in-person employees always get to do this certain thing. I know everything's not feasible if you're not physically there, but just try to include your virtual employees if you're doing something in person and vice versa.
Absolutely. Great point on that. And I do have to say the escape room that we did was super fun. I was terrible at it, but it was so fun. And my other favorite one was we did I don't remember the exact name, but the music trivia. I
Yes.
love that. That was like flashback songs too. It was great. It was great. So yeah, there's a lot of options out there depending on kind of where your needs and goals are. Okay, so moving on to delivering frequency, recognition should feel meaningful and can be formal or casual. Just to give you some perspective, a formal program might be something like Employee of the Month, while casual recognition could just be a quick thank you in a meeting or a Teams or Slack shout out, much like what Emily was talking about. It can also be public or private. I want to just chat about this for a minute. There are still simple options if you don't have the budget, which we're going to talk a bit about some roadblocks in a bit, or resources. Some people love being recognized in front of the team. Others appreciate a simple personal note or one-on-one acknowledgement from their manager. I think it was either Emily or Jen had mentioned, just that pat on the back from leadership or management. That can really go a long way. Not everyone has to have this grand public acknowledgement. It's those small gestures as well that can go a really long way. You'll also want to decide if recognition should be a surprise or something planned. I have some opinions on this one. Surprise gift cards or unexpected kudos obviously go a long way, But planned awards like those calendar-driven milestone celebrations really give people something to look forward to. I personally, in my professional and personal life, I love that having something to look forward to, whether it's vacation, whether it's my anniversary at work. It really does go a long way. So, don't forget those. And again, like we talked about earlier, those are a little bit more of the low-hanging fruit for you to be able to implement if you don't have something right now. Um, I highly recommend, kind of looking into that. And finally, think about how often you'll recognize people. It could be weekly shout outs, monthly or quarterly highlights, or awards, or just whenever somebody does something awesome. You're going to hear me say this quite a few times over the next, few minutes, but celebrate not just the big wins, but the small wins too. It's so easy. We're, all usually, pretty hyper focused on, the big deliverables and the big wins and things like that. But we forget, it's so easy to forget about all those small wins that we had leading up to that big win. So don't forget about those, and work into your program, making sure that there's opportunity and room to celebrate those smaller wins as well. And what we've all been waiting for, this is my favorite part of the program. I want to bring a little life to what we've talked about so far. We're going to consider some real world examples. There are a few, up here on the slide. We have, values and action. We have, a growth quest celebrating, revenue growth, monthly celebrations for the milestones. And I'm going to actually have Emily start off and just give us some real world examples that you all have, because I know you have some really cool ones that you found successful and impactful to the organization, to the employees, all of that.
Yeah. So at a prior company, we were very sales focused. So we primarily did merit based award types to align with hitting those sales goals. So a really memorable thing that we did was an annual sales and service award ceremony where top performers would be invited to a formal dinner and would be called up to accept company awards from the CEO. They got a night with senior leadership and had a room full of their fellow coworkers who were also high achievers from all over who clapped and recognized their successes. I know everyone really looked forward to and strived for that yearly, and it made employees feel really, really special. But I always like to mention too, for smaller organizations or virtual organizations, things like this can be scaled way down, where you just take maybe an afternoon and you order lunch if you're in person, and you have like an in-house award ceremony for an hour, where you print out paper awards. It still is the same gist of that, making people feel really special. Same thing with virtual. You could all jump on Zoom, have they can have lunch if they want during it, and then maybe do like a pop-up or a PowerPoint presentation of like awards, so that they're still called upon. So there are a lot of options that you can do to still make people feel special without having to spend a ton as well.
Absolutely. And I love something that you said early on, um, the peers clapping and celebrating each other and celebrating each other's success. It brings me kind of back to what I said earlier about um, the other benefit is that team morale, right? And that camaraderie, celebrating, one another, which is an awesome thing. However, it's just another benefit. It's just another benefit to these programs. And Jen, I know that you have some really cool examples as well from your experience.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. And like Emily, I've helped organizations and organize award ceremonies that celebrate employees reaching some of those meaningful goals. So, some of the most effective programs I've seen in the past are those goals driven awards like the Employee of the Month, a top sales performer, a safety champion, maybe even a highest performing team. And these events that they go often go beyond just handing out the awards, offering raffles, getting the big dinners. I even tell you in a former organization I used to work with, the top performers were rewarded with a pretty elaborate trip. These type of rewards, they became some annual highlights for employees that not only did it honor their achievement, but it also inspired others around them to drive and strive for this type of recognition. Like programs like this do tend to reinforce what success looks like. It aligns personal goals with company mission, and it really does help to foster a little bit of a healthy competition in your team, but also employee appreciation. But also, that being said, recognition does not need to be on a grand spectacle and expensive to be meaningful. At my HR partner, for instance, we each receive a handwritten note from our leader on Employee Appreciation Day. To me, that is an incredibly personal touch, which I have found to be very, very valuable and meaningful. At another organization, I've also marked milestones with simple celebrations like a pizza party or even a simple shout out on social media. So these small gestures do go a very, very long way in making employees feel genuinely valued.
Absolutely. And I just want to say that if we could put up on a billboard right now, I want you to visualize this, everyone. This is what I would like it to say. Employee recognition doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. It's just so important to remember that. A lot of people get so discouraged because they think they have to have these extravagant programs, or it's just not worth it, and that's just not the case. So please, if you take nothing from today, please take the fact that any type of recognition does not have to be grand. And also the other part is celebrate those small wins, right? So I always recommend, like I said earlier, that organizations start small. It's really awesome to see how something as small as a public high five can truly make an employee see and feel, right, that they're valued. Excellent. Thank you both. That was awesome. Okay, so we've gone through why it's important. We've gone through award types. We've talked about reward examples. And now we're going to talk a bit about actually building the program, or, it's also going to be hopefully beneficial to you if you're looking to reevaluate or refresh a current program that you have. There's some basic steps that you do want to consider when creating a program that will work best for your company and culture. I always, again, I'm like a broken record, recommend starting small and then growing from there. You will thank me. Start by deciding what kinds of achievements or behaviors you want to encourage, right? Is it initiative or customer service? Do you want to reward innovation, collaboration, meeting quotas? And again, this could include individuals, teams, or both. I think a lot of times we focus on recognizing one person, but don't forget about the team environment too. If you have, team and collaborative groups working together on certain things, rewarding the team aspects as well can be really great and motivating for your folks. Next, think about the type of recognition that makes sense. Is it a shout out in a meeting? Is it a handwritten note? Is it a small reward, an extra day of PTO? What makes sense and what's going to be impactful for your organization and your people? What's going to engage the employees, not only to make them feel valued, but so that they participate, right? Once you have the basics down, roll out your program with very clear communication, right? Understanding what the program is, what the recognizable behaviors, what the rewards are, what, if it's a nomination situation, if it's a team shout out. And don't forget, this is probably one of the most overlooked parts. And again, it usually probably comes down to time and resources, right? Ask for feedback. Check in regularly with your people. That can be in the form of a survey or maybe a focus group. Get a group of folks together that represent, a broad base of your organization, and just sit down and talk and see what's working, what could be better. And make those adjustments and make those updates as needed. So we ensure that we're keeping the programs fresh and effective, right? All right. Poll question number 3. What challenges have you faced most when implementing a recognition program? And we're going to do a deeper dive into these here in a minute. There's obviously more roadblocks than this, but these are, I feel like I've seen kind of the core ones: leadership buy-in, budget limitations, a lack of time and resources, low employee participation. Or maybe you haven't faced any challenges, right? Maybe, you've done your due diligence, you know your organization, you know your culture, you know your people, and you've laid out a program and communicated it very well, and you're not having any challenges, right? So I'd like to hear, we'll give it another second, and then we'll see the results. Okay. Budget limitations. I knew it. I knew that would be number one, but I didn't want to say it until I saw it. Yep, that's about right. Uh, Okay, so I had thought maybe it would be budget limitations and then lack of time and resources, but it looks like number two is lack of employee engagement or participation. Okay, that's good to know. We're going to talk a little bit about that in the upcoming slides. This is great. This is great. Thank you guys for participating. Okay, so moving on to our roadblocks. So we're going to do a deeper dive. We're going to talk to you about real situations, and how some tips and tricks on how to overcome some of these roadblocks in the next couple slides. So I'm just going to go ahead and pass the baton and have Jen lead it off, and just go over, Jen, what challenges you've faced or seen with organizations you've worked with in starting, implementing, or sustaining a recognition program, and how you or the organization overcame those challenges.
Sure, yes. Like you mentioned, Stephanie, implementing a recognition program definitely does come with its challenges. Um, Surprisingly, not that one of the biggest hurdles, of course, is the budget and working within that budget constraint. Um, you know, let's face it, these programs do require some resources. So whether it's for those awards, events, or incentives that you're using, securing funding often means that we need to build a very strong business case for this program. And then you're going to see in the upcoming slides, we're going to talk a little bit more about some data and studies that do speak to measurable outcomes for things like higher engagement, better retention, and improved performance. And hopefully you'll be able to use this data to help you build out that powerful argument and return on investment when you are looking to secure a budget. Another challenge is designing this program that, resonates across a very diverse workforce. Employees are motivated by different things, so it's really important to make a program that's inclusive and adaptable. As Stephanie had mentioned earlier, gathering employee feedback and involving them in the process will really, really help to ensure that your program is meaningful and impactful. And then for some more of those structured programs like a points-based recognition, making sure you have clear guidelines are essential. Employees need to know and be able to understand what is being recognized, how are points earned, how are rewards given, and so on. So in this step here, communication is key. Without it, the program can quickly lose its effectiveness. So to be successful, keep program details accessible, send out some of those regular reminders, and maintain transparency throughout the entire program.
Absolutely. Excellent, Jen. Thank you. And again, you mentioned kind of that focus group or survey. I know we talked a little bit about that as far as doing check-ins to see, how the program's doing and how the employees are feeling about it. But when you're getting ready to start the program, that's really an ideal opportunity to really get a pulse on what your people want and what will be effective for them. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Jen. Emily, do you want to add to that a little bit?
Yeah, I'm glad I'm not the only one. By the survey, it looks like employee buy-in or engagement was a big issue as well. So a major challenge that I've personally faced implementing a recognition program is getting that engagement once it's implemented. So as I mentioned earlier, when starting the Teams channel and social media post program at a prior position, we really realized our group of employees needed some sort of incentive to push them to start posting and get the ball rolling. That's when we implemented that point system where they could buy company swag with it. We already received our merchandise at a pretty reduced group rate because we would give out 2 shirts when they got started anyway. So the overall cost for the number of posts that they needed to make was reasonable for us. So teams were constantly striving to be able to purchase that swag. So in that instance, it really boosted participation. It was also really great for new hires to come on board, feel welcomed, and get a sense for the culture that we spoke about in the interviewing process. Within the first week of employment, we had them make a brief introduction about themselves so that they could get used to the interaction that occurred in that Teams channel. And thereafter, they usually kept up with it because they knew what to expect. They weren't worried about making their first post by themselves, things like that. But I will note that it's really important for leadership to lead the charge. So if you roll something out, make sure that leaders are participating too and setting an example, especially in the early stages of rolling it out.
Absolutely. And there's just two points I wanted to comment on, Emily. I love that you brought up the new hires because we talked earlier about incorporating it into the hiring process. And then you see that flow from hiring into the onboarding, right? Because onboarding, is the first several weeks and months of an employee's starting with the company. Really continuing that into onboarding. So it's not just something that was said in hiring, but it's really part of the culture, right? And part of the process. That's great. And the second thing I did want to just reiterate, I mean, you've already said it, but leadership engagement is extremely important. And it's not just about, leadership being like, yeah, go ahead, do it. That sounds great. Go for it. They really need to engage, right? They need to be part of the program and participate in the program and be seen participating and promoting the program. It's just not enough to approve it and say, good, that's great. They really, really, we need to be engaging in the process as well. Awesome. Thank you guys both so much. That was fantastic. So I'm going to be passing this over to Jen. She's going to lay some stats on us. My hope is, and our hope is, a lot of times, especially if, maybe you're wanting to, a budget, or maybe you're wanting, time and resources to build a program, or maybe improve a current program you have. And you might need to, put together a business case. I've done many of them. I know that, the three of us have done many of these in our careers. And I always find that having some statistics to back up your case is always super helpful. So Jen's going to just kind of go through I think some really cool and interesting stats that hopefully you can take with you when you're starting to revamp or create your program. And just so you guys know, you don't have to remember these or write these down. We will be sending out, we're recording this, so we will be sending out a link so you guys can see this afterwards too and tap into anything that maybe you missed. Jen, you want to take it away?
Yes. So let me take a few moments here to highlight just how powerful recognition can be in driving, some powerful outcomes. So according to a Gallup study, employees are up to 4 times more engaged in organizations that have solid recognition program. Another study found that companies with recognition programs see 31% lower voluntary terminations or turnover. And considering it can cost about a third of an employee's salary to replace them, recognition is such a smart way to help reduce that risk. And also, another study found that for every dollar a company spent, they can see up to $3 in return value through improved productivity and employee loyalty. And yet another study, regular recognition, fuels motivation and commitment, with organizations experiencing 17% higher productivity, 21% more profitability, and 63% of employees are more likely to stay with an organization 6 months after being recognized. Also, lastly, Deloitte found that recognition also helps to reinforce company values and boost how organization is perceived. And strong recognition programs in organizations with strong recognition programs are 12 times more likely to see stronger business outcomes. So really the key takeaway, this data shows that companies that prioritize recognition don't just keep great talent, they are thriving because of it.
I love it. I love it. And this is, I mean, when I saw these, I was a little, wow, surprised. 31% lower voluntary turnover. That's a big number. That's a really, really big number. And as we all know, um, if you don't, surprise, turnover is super expensive, right? So we want to do everything we can to avoid that and keep our folks happy and keep them with us, right? Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jen. All right, so we've kind of gotten through, a big part of it. I want to just go through just some key takeaways for you to kind of just take with you. Um, there are thousands of ways to slice and dice employee recognition programs, right? I mean, you've heard a whole bunch just here today. I'm sure, you might even have some unique ones that you're using. Um, these employee recognition programs are influenced by everything from company size to budget to culture. The driving force behind your company's program should be your business's mission, values, perspective, and goals. When designing or revamping, right, or refreshing your employee recognition program, consider what critical but easy to overlook areas of your organization you can make note to celebrate, right? Maybe those small wins that lead up to those big wins. Um, they're just so important, and as we've said, like, and me as a broken record, they're often overlooked and they're low hanging fruit and they go such a long way. So just remember to evaluate your organization, your people, do your due diligence before you decide exactly what's going to work best for you. Okay. All right, so here we go. Free guide time. There is a QR code on the screen. You can download it. I'll leave it up here for a few seconds. I think that, and I think I think we all agree that you will find it helpful. Again, whether you're starting from scratch or you're just, your program needs maybe a little bit of a refresh. Called a go-to guide for creating employee recognition. An employee recognition program, excuse me. It's a deeper dive into best practices, actionable steps, and tips you can implement right away. I think it's a really good companion to today's presentation. So you're not only, you can download it here, but we're also going to email out a link so you have access to the checklist as well as the recorded webinar. Okay. Oh, and before I forget, we also will be sending out a survey about the webinar and any feedback that you might have. So if you don't mind, just take a few seconds and fill that out. It helps us make sure we're providing you content that will serve you best going forward. Okay, so I'm going to leave it up for another second. Don't worry, you'll get it in your email. Okay, so again, thank you all for joining today. I want to, especially thank Jen and Emily for sharing your experiences. The secret people behind the scenes. I want to thank Lisa and Kayla for being our technical people. We would not be here today if it weren't for them, because I don't mean to speak for you, Emily and Jen, but none of us are very technical. So thank you, Lisa and Kayla, for your technical guidance. And I just really hope that you as the audience gain some valuable insights into designing a recognition program that drives engagement and success for you, your employees, for your organization. If you'd like expert guidance on this, more guidance specifically on employee recognition programs or any of our other services, reach out to myHR Partner. You can visit our website at myhrpartner.com, or feel free to reach out directly to me. My email's up on the screen along with my giant face. My email is stephanier@myhrpartner.com. If we by chance did not get to any questions that maybe you had, feel free to reach out to me directly, or maybe something comes up after we get off of here and you want to just touch base with me, feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And I just want to thank everybody for your participation. I hope to see you at our next webinar. We will just be on the lookout for more information on that. And have a great rest of your week, everybody.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.